Are you guys okay? Good, hello. All right, let me share my screen really quickly, and then we can start. Just a second. Yes. Can everyone see my screen now? I think you should be able to. Yes, okay, great. So let's start. So today we're having a speaking session, our speaking workshop. I think someone unmuted themselves. Is there anything you want to say before we start? Okay, if not, you can raise your hand to speak, and then you can unmute yourself, or you can use the chat box. I can see the chat box as well. If you're not talking, I want to say it's good if you unmute yourself, so as not to affect the class. Other than that, if there's anything that you want to ask, you can ask me before we start. If not, as you know, some of you know, we start our class with a tongue twister. And for those of you who are new, the tongue twister is we try to say the tongue twister after I read it first. And tongue twisters are really challenging to read and pronunciate because they have so many of the same letters. So for example, in this example, we will have a lot of S's, right? And SHs. So we will try to read those. And this is really good practice for your speaking, because while you're speaking, sometimes it's hard to pronunciate some words, especially if there are some repeating letters like this. So it's a really good practice for your speaking. So let's start. Our sentence today is, she sells by the seashore. The shells she sells are seashells, I'm sure. So if she sells seashells on the seashore, then I'm sure she sells seashore shells. So it's challenging even for me, but it's okay if we make mistakes. We will make mistakes. That's the first rule of practicing and speaking. We will make some mistakes, but it's okay. Does anyone want to try? Anyone that wants to go first?
Yes, ma'am. Hi, ma'am.
Yeah, hi. Go ahead.
Yeah, I will try it.
All right.
She sells seashells by the seashore. The shells she sells are the seashells, I'm sure. So if she sells seashells on the seashore, then I'm sure she sells seashore shells.
Thank you. That was really good, I think. It was better than mine.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Anyone else? All right. We can always come back to this if you don't feel like doing it right now. Yes, Anna, you can go ahead.
She sells seashells by the seashore. The shells she sells are seashells, I'm sure. So if she sells seashells on the seashore, then I'm sure she sells seashore shells.
Thank you. That was perfect, I think. That was really good. Thank you so much. Yes, Miriam, you can go ahead.
Okay. She sells seashells by the seashore. The shells she sells are seashells, I'm sure. So if she sells seashells on the seashore, then I'm sure she sells seashore shells.
Thank you. That was really, really good. You guys are all doing really well right now. Yes, you can go ahead. Anjali, am I pronouncing it right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. Go ahead.
She sells seashells by the seashore. The shells she sells are seashells, I'm sure. So if she sells seashells on the seashore, then I'm sure she sells seashore shells.
Yes, thank you. That was good. I think you're all doing really fine right now. Yes, Kritika. Am I pronouncing it right? You can go ahead.
She sells seashells by the seashore.
She cells, the cells she cells are she cells. I'm sure if she cells on the seashore, then I'm sure she sells seashore cells. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was really good. Yes, Wasam. Which one is it? Or am I so wrong? You can speak.
Yeah, it's Wasim.
Wasim.
Thank
Okay,
you.
go ahead.
She sells seashells by the seashore. The shells she sells are seashells, I am sure. So, if she sells seashells on the seashore, then I am sure she sells seashore shells.
Thank you. That was really good. It's really hard to say seashells while we're saying so much she, right? So it usually becomes she shells. I do that too. And that was really good. Thank you so much. Anyone else that wants to go ahead? All right. If not, I want to start by making this, saying this before we start. In the speaking section, the general IELTS test takers and the academic IELTS test takers both take the same exam. And that's why it's not really academic speaking test. It's more like a general daily conversation like practice. So what we need to do, if we can, is to not say I am, for example, here, but instead go ahead and say I'm. Or you can say she's instead of she is, or I am, or I don't. You can just shorten everything because that's what we usually do while speaking on a daily basis, right? We kind of tend to say everything fast. So that's why we don't say I am. We say just I'm. So in the speaking exam, you're highly encouraged to do that. You're highly encouraged to use the short versions of things instead of saying I am or I don't or I will. You can say just I'll, and you can be really good in terms of speaking on a daily basis. Does anyone have any questions on this or the tongue twister? Anything? All right, if not, let's go ahead. So today we will talk about some tips and strategies as we have already started about the speaking exam. Then we will have some discussion questions and we will look at some vocabulary. We will study some vocabulary that might be useful during the exam. Then we will learn about some idioms and collocations, which will again really help you with your speaking because in daily speaking we usually tend to use those idioms and collocations, and if you use them you will show the examiner that you know how to use those idioms and you can actually speak on a daily basis with so many vocabularies and different idioms. All right, let's go ahead. In this lesson, you will learn about your routines. You will learn to talk about your routines, your best time of the day, your daily life, and we will start with some tips and strategies. So, in the speaking exam, understanding the question and giving a relevant response is really, really important because, yes, this is a speaking section, but even then, you will not see the questions. Instead, the examiner will ask you the questions and you will not see them. Then you need to give a relevant response, you really need to understand the question. So the first thing is actually to learn how to listen and understand when someone says something for the first time. So it really goes in hand with the listening parts too. So I advise you to practice hearing something, hearing a question, and trying to understand it without seeing it first, and then trying to give a relevant response. This is our first strategy for today. And while giving your answers, you need to be specific and you need to give detailed information. So, for example, even if the examiner asks you, do you like the color red, for example, you shouldn't just say yes or no. You should give extra information. So, for example, you can say, yes, I like red, but I like it when it's on a fruit, for example, but I don't like it when a cloth is red, for example. So you need to really go into detail, even if the question is a yes-no question, which you will probably not get anyways. Even if the question comes as a yes-no question, you need to give some detailed information. And while doing that, you will make some errors. As I have said at the beginning of this class, you will make some errors. It's okay. What you need to do is to not worry about them. And instead, you can just correct your mistake if you can do it quickly. And just keep on speaking. If you cannot correct your mistake really quickly, then I advise you to not worry about it at all and not try to correct it and lose some time. Instead, just keep on speaking. And if you don't repeat those mistakes, like such mistakes, again and again, it won't affect your score that much, maybe at all. And while speaking, it's really, really important to be confident and smile. Because when you look confident and when you smile, the examiner will think that you're good at speaking and you're doing good in terms of speaking on a daily basis really comfortably. If you feel like you cannot do this at the moment, you can practice speaking in front of a mirror or while recording yourself. And then you can see the difference between looking confident and then being really anxious and trying to speak, because they affect how you speak as well. If you look confident, you will also feel confident too. And it really, really affects how you speak. So these are the tips and strategies that we have for the speaking section. Any questions before we go to the vocabulary part about the tips and strategies? You can raise your hand or you can use the chat box. I can see all of them. If there are no questions, let's go ahead and start our vocabulary. All right, so these are the words that we will look at today. What we need to do is to match the words with their definitions. And I will give you a few seconds to look at them really quickly. And then we will start with the first one. So the first one is an adverb, usually. Do you know what it means? Do you know what it matches with? One is C and H. There are differences of opinion there. Is it C or H? Let's look at it together. So C says at regular times, often, and H says in the way that is usual or normal, most often. They look kind of similar too, right? Those definitions. So that's why you're having those differences of opinion. And I will give you some tip. The first one and the sixth word, they're kind of similar. So maybe try to do both of them at once. Let's try to do both of them. So usually and regularly, on a regular basis. They're really, really similar. Which one is which one, you think? Do you want to change your answer, or do you want to go with the same one? So actually, you can use them synonymously too, but one is actually H, because usually means in the way that is usual or normal. So that's what we do normally, let's say. But regularly, the sixth word is C, at regular times, often, on a regular basis. So when we do something regularly, for example, brushing our teeth, we brush our teeth every day, regularly, on a regular basis. It doesn't have to be every day, it just needs to be regularly. So at definite times, things that we do repeatedly, let's say. But usually means that we're doing something like generally, usually, normally. But it doesn't have to be regularly. So regularly has definite times, but usually just means we do something often. Is the difference between the two clear? Or do you have any questions on this? Yes, it's clear. Okay. All right. Then let's go to the second one, early bird, which is an idiom. It's a noun. Early bird. There are a lot of people that says G. Yes, it's correct. A person who likes to wake up early. So when we want to or like to wake up early, we can be called an early bird. So, for example, I am not an early bird at all. I don't like waking up early. All right, what about the third one, inseparable, which is an adjective. So we usually use it in front of a noun, inseparable. E, yes, that's really good. Not able to be separated. So the in usually makes that word or adjective or whatever it takes the contrasting version of without the in. So, for example, separable is able to be separated, but inseparable is not able to be separated, basically. So, inseparable, it's an adjective. We can use it like, for example, my friend and I are inseparable. So, we don't usually stay apart, right? What about the fourth one, demotivated? Demotivate, yes, it's A, feeling less keen to work or study. So when we're motivated, we like to do things, so we can do things. So, for example, I can be motivated to study, and that means that I can study at that moment. I'm really motivated. I want to study. But when we're demotivated, we don't want to study that much. So we don't have enough motivation to study or work or whatever. What about the fifth one, night owl, which is a noun? It's also an idiom. B, yes, so a person who enjoys staying up late at night, which is me. I'm a night owl. I usually tend to stay up during the night and then I wake up really, really late. So I'm a night owl then. What about the sixth one, regularly, on a regular basis? We already talked about this. It's C, right? All right, I think we've talked enough about that, so I'm just going to skip it. What about productive, which is an adjective again? 7 is D, yes, doing or achieving a lot, and we're fruitful. This means that we're productive. So this means that, for example, if I get a lot of things done in a day, that means I was productive that day. So, for example, today I was not productive at all. I just cooked and cleaned my house, but that was it. I actually wanted to do more. I wanted to study a bit, but I was not productive. So, what can we say when we're not productive? Do you know that word? It's not here. It's not included here. When we're not productive, what can we say? Do you know that? It's unproductive. So we get U and N, unproductive. And that means we're not productive that day. All right, let's talk about the last one, spontaneous. F, yes, perfect. So it means when something is spontaneous, it's not planned and not done. It's not planned but done because you suddenly want to do it or you suddenly just do it. And when we don't plan something but do it anyways, we're spontaneous, or that thing is spontaneous action, for example. All right, any questions about the vocabulary? Any of the words or their definitions? If not, let's go ahead. So we will now use the words that we've just learned. So you can see the words here anyway, and there are 8 questions. Let's try to do the first one. So what can we say? I'm something home by 6 o'clock. Yes, Shreya, go ahead.
I'm usually home by 6 o'clock.
Perfect. I'm usually home. That means I tend to come home by 6 o'clock. Perfect. What about the second one?
Me, can I answer?
Sure, yes, go ahead.
I was a night owl when I was younger, but these days I would rather go to bed early.
Yes, perfect. So we can say I was a night owl when I was younger, but these days I'd rather go to bed early. So we can say I would, or we can say I'd rather. which are both correct. I just wanted to show you the second version of doing it, just to make you practice those contractions before you take the exam. All right. What about the third one? Yes, Anna. I see you first. Low payment.
Low payment makes workers so demotivated.
Demotivated. Yes, perfect. So they're not motivated. Yes, Miriam.
I go there quite
So this person goes there almost every week. What can
regularly.
Regularly, yes, perfect. I go there quite regularly, almost every week. Yes, for the fifth one was Sim. Was that it? You can speak.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You had no plans to do. It was a inseparable.
Not really. We had no plans to do it, so we didn't plan it. Then we did it anyway. What is it?
Spontaneous.
Spontaneous. Yes, perfect. We had no plans to do it. It was a spontaneous thing. Yes, but we skipped the fifth one, I guess. For the fifth one, Nina, do you want to talk? I don't think you've talked before.
Okay. You're an early bird this morning. You get up so early.
Yes, this person gets up early, so he's an early bird. Yes. Aryan, is that correct?
That's correct. We had a very productive day. I felt we got so many things done.
Yes, we had a very productive day. I felt we got so many things done. Yes, Shreya, for the eighth one.
Going to gym is an inseparable part of my life. I cannot live without it.
Yeah, so we cannot be separated from going to gym. Yes, that was really good. Do you have any questions about any of these? If not, let's go to our question discussion part. All right. So our first question for today is: do you prefer relaxing at home or going out in the evening? You can speak like 1 minute. That would be really, really good for the speaking exam part 1. Around 40 seconds, 1 minute is really good for each question. And in the speaking section, part 1, you don't have actually any time to think before you answer the question. So you don't have to plan out anything. You can just talk and say whatever that comes to your mind. What's really important is that you kind of stay on the topic and talk without any interruptions, let's say. He wants to answer the first question. So, do you prefer relaxing at home or going out in the evening? Yes, Anjali. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right.
So I am working in IT firm. So most of the time I got time in the evening. So I prefer relaxing at home, watching Netflix, or making some dinner for me and my family. So most of the time I spend my evening with my family uh, at home. But at Saturday, Sunday, or weekdays, I would prefer to go out in the evening, as where I live now, there is pleasant weather at the evening. So in the evening, so I prefer going out in the weekends.
Thank you. That was a really good answer. Anyone else that wants to go? All right. Then let's go to the next question. Maybe you want to do that. So, what part of the day do you like the most? What part of the day? So, for example, I like the nights because it's really quiet and it's really tranquil. And so I can do whatever I want. I can watch a movie, I can just study for the whole night, and there are not any distractions when it's night. So I really enjoy the night part of the day. What about you? Yes, Shreya.
So for me, mornings are the most preferable time of the day because I'm refreshed from all the stress. I don't have anything on my mind. It's a new day. Everything is new for me. I love to have a sip of my coffee or tea and start my day with new thinking and vibe, which eventually makes my day perfect because I'm able to complete all my tasks with um fruitfully. So definitely, I'd say that mornings are best time of the day for me.
Okay, thank you. Really good. Yes, Anna.
My favorite part of the day is definitely morning because I like waking up earlier than the rest of my family. I usually enjoy my coffee and I'm still full of energy. I like creating different plans for the rest of the day, and I'm full of hope that everything is going to be well. I like evenings as well, but usually in the evening I feel already a little bit tired. So comparing to the mornings, I'm just a little bit exhausted at the end of the day. That's why I like mornings.
Thank you. Really good. Yes, Miriam.
Well, my favorite part of the day is in the afternoon. That is when my father comes from work, and we usually eat lunch at that time. And this is the time where I take my break and watch whatever I want. And also, I take time off work and studying. So I also sit down with my family and have some little chats.
Thank you so much. Yes, Anjali.
My part of the day I like more evening. I'm a night owl, or you can say I like chill weather. So in the evening, here it's a very pleasant weather. I feel more productive. And I study at in the night, and I plan my uh, like tomorrow or to-do list, or mostly chat with my friends. So my favorite part of the day is evening or night.
Thank you so much. Anyone else that wants to answer this question or any of these questions? All right, if not, let's go to the next one. So the next question is, do you like to plan what you will do every day? So, for example, I really cannot live without planning what I'm going to do that day. You can say I'm a really planned person. If I don't do any plans for that day, I usually miss the things that I want to do or forget about them completely. And I do something else. I do something spontaneous. And then I usually get behind of the things that I need to do. So I really like to plan what I want to do every single day because I also have a lot of classes, and those classes tend to last very, very long. So it's really important that I plan out my day beforehand. What about you, Kritika? Is that correct?
Yes, it's Kritika. Thank you for this. This has been my favorite question because every day, every morning, I used to plan for the whole day. Each and every After each and every hours, what should I do? I used to plan each and everything. So this has been the favorite questions of this time. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, yes, Anjali, go ahead. Can you hear me, Anjali? I think you raised your hand.
Yes, sorry, I was in mute.
Sure, no
Okay.
worries.
So I was a few days back, sorry, few years back, I was very spontaneous person. I was like do on the way, or what do you say, if there is work I will do. I'm not planning each and everything, but after taking a job, I have to plan, and it built a habit of making to-do list, because there is so much burden and workload on me as a team leader. So I have to plan my day in the night, so I can I can actually prepare myself for the for the meetings, and how to assign tasks and all the things. So I like to plan my day before starting of the day. I plan usually at night what I need to do tomorrow. So it's make me more productive. I like, there is no mistake can be affordable for me as a leader. So I have to plan my day at the night.
All
uh,
right.
yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry, it motivates me, and I feel more productive when I plan, because I don't um,
It's all right. I was gonna stop you anyway. I'm sorry. In the speaking exam too, this is a reminder for everyone. The examiner might sometimes stop you in the middle of your answer, because they have a time limit, right? So they have to complete your exam with a maximum of maybe 15 minutes, and that's why they can stop you while you're still giving your answer. You don't have to worry about that. It doesn't really decrease your point, so you can still get a 9 even if the examiner stops you. But yeah, that might happen. Don't worry about it. Yet again, just try to not exceed the 1 minute limit for each question for part one. You usually need to speak around 40 minutes, and 40 seconds, and that will be enough for the first part. But if you speak more than a minute, then the examiner will stop you, which is, as I've said, okay, but it might kind of make you anxious too for someone to stop you while you're still talking. So I advise you to kind of time yourself. Limit your speaking to maybe 45 seconds for each question, and then you will sense when you have spoken for 45 minutes and you will be good. That was a general reminder for everyone. All right. I think Wasim raised their hand, but I couldn't get to it. Do you want to still speak?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Go ahead.
Yeah. Actually, I am not a very planned person, but I like planning. I do most of the planning in my office work, because there's a lot of work. Actually, I am a software engineer, so there's a projects line up, and my manager says that create a to-do list and show me, and that like that. And yeah, planning is a basic need when we are creating and organizing an event. Means if we are organizing an event, so there is there is a very planning needed. There's planning needed. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Yes, Shreya, go ahead.
Yes, so I'd say that planning is a very crucial aspect of my life because of the tight schedule, it is very important for me to jot down all the points a day before the event or the day. So I usually write all the points so that I won't forget anything, which makes me full in my mind because I know that I'll be able to complete all my stuff that I have written down, and I'll be productive the whole day instead of feeling anxious and depressed because I wasn't able to fulfill my duties that I was supposed to do. So, yes, planning is very crucial for me.
Thank you so much. Really good. Yes, Fatima. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, it's come to me. It's an interesting question about that. So, planning is important in our life, though if we are spontaneous, the things will get sometimes wrong. So that we will get satisfaction at the end of the day if we plan all over the day. So, if we will plan about throughout the day, we will feel relaxed and we will get inappropriate things. But if we not plan, if we are spontaneous on that, so things will not get an appropriate manner. So, at the end, we will get satisfaction about that if we planned throughout the day.
Thank you so much. Yes, Miriam.
Well, with me, yes, I like to plan what I'm going to do every single day. I usually plan before I sleep. I don't write what I'm going to do. I usually think about them, and I don't know how, but I remember them the next day and know what I'm going to do. If I don't plan what I'm going to do, I usually tend to forget and get distracted and do lots of different things that shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm. That you shouldn't have. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Um, yes. Anyone that raised their hand, but I did not give permission to speak? Is there anyone like that? I tried to keep track of it, but I might lose a few. If not, all right, let's go to our section 2. So, in the second part, you will be required to talk about a question for 2 whole minutes, and you have 1 minute to prepare for that question. And we've just given you the words that we've talked about here that are relevant to the question, and you might try to use them in your speaking. You don't have to, but it's a really good practice if you try to use them right now so that you can get used to them, used to using them, basically. So, our discussion question for today is to describe one of your typical days. And you should talk about how you start that day, how long you have been following that routine, your favorite time and activity of the day, and you need to explain what you do in a typical day of your life. So basically, we need to describe a typical day of ours. And you don't need to answer these questions one by one. You can just kind of talk about all of them generally. And you don't have to, for example, first say how you start that day. You can start with what you do typically. And then you can say how you start your day, for example. So you don't have to actually follow this order. You can talk about whatever you want, and you're highly encouraged to add more things than the questions here. So, what you need to do is basically to describe your first thing, your first responsibility is to describe that day to the examiner rather than try to answer each and every question here. And you need to kind of give a story. You need to have this organization on your mind that you give to the examiner. So the examiner, while listening to you, should have that kind of like a storyline on his or her mind. So, does anyone want to go first here? Describe one of your typical days. Yes, Anjali, go ahead.
So I usually wake up at 8 o'clock and start with my day with making a tea. And I like to watch or read some news at the starting of the day, so it make me more connected with community, and I know some it gained some general knowledge in me, but I don't feel more productive at the morning. My favorite time is in the evening. I feel more productive, and I do like in the evening I basically take one skill or learn some new skill using various platforms like YouTube, or enroll for some webinars. It's more kind of various I enroll in various kinds of webinars because I like to learn new things. So basically my favorite time, like in the evening, I more feel more productive and motivated. I spend my day first I start with my tea and some news. Then after that I have enrolled some courses whereas I learn programming. After that I make lunch for me and my family. after 2 or 3 hours, I take some rest, and in the evening I started learning new things. After that, I prepare for my IELTS. Mostly I take 1 or 2 section in the IELTS practice. This is the typical routine for me right now.
All right, thank you. That was almost exactly 2 minutes. That's really good timing there. Thank you so much. Yes, I think Kritika raised their hand first. Go ahead.
Thank you for the chance. I'm totally free person right now. I have just completed my higher school, so I was early bird that time. But right now, I have been very lazy, and my day starts with early sun by seeing the rising sun. So I used to wake up at 6 a.m. in the morning, and then I used to take some sip of tea, and oh, I used to play with my brother sometimes, and I cook dinner lunch for everyone, and then whole day I used to play games or spending time with family, sleeping like that. And in the evening I used to practice something about IELTS, and I used to learn some general knowledges from the internet. And then I uh, I was I was very active before my results, but the outcome was um, very like it was unexpected, so the result demotivated me, and I have been more lazier, and right now I'm just uh, learning something in IELTS and some general knowledges. And again, I used to make dinner for everyone, and then in the weekends, me and my family are like night owls. We used to go somewhere. We used to have fun usually at night, because everyone get gathered during night only. So we love enjoying in weekends. Thank you. It has been 2 minutes.
All right. Yes, it
Bye bye.
actually has. Did you time yourself? That was actually 2 minutes. And thank you so much. All right. So before I give permission to speak to the next person, I want to say just a few reminders. While you're speaking, not those who speak right now, but students, while they're speaking, they usually tend to repeat themselves a lot. And this is what I do actually too. I kind of repeat myself a lot too. I'm sorry for that. But we shouldn't actually repeat ourselves, because when we repeat the things that we say, the examiner cannot hear any other things from us too, right? So, for example, if we always use the same sentence, then the examiner will know that we know how to form that sentence, but the examiner cannot know what else we know, right? So for the examiner to understand our score, like to understand our level of English, they need to hear more words, more different grammatical structures, for example, from us. So try not to repeat yourself. This is the first reminder that I want to do. And the second one is try to answer the question in the tense that is asked with. So, for example, in this question, the question asks how you start your day. So it's simple present tense, right? Or it says, how long have you been following this routine? So, for example, you can say, I have been doing this routine for, let's say, 3 years. But try not to talk about the future or talk about the past while you're speaking. Instead, try to stick with the tenses that the question asks you, because they ask you with these tenses because they want to know if you can use those tenses. So try to stick with that tense that the question is asked with. And if you kind of think back to the questions that you're asked in IELTS speaking, if you have ever taken the exam, you will kind of realize that they start with usually a simple present tense question. they usually then again ask a simple past tense question, and then they move on to asking a question about the future. So they want you to use all those three different types of tenses while you're speaking, because they want to know if you can use all of them. So after I've did my reminders, let me check if I have something else. No, I don't. So we can go to Miriam. Yes, you can speak.
Well,
Mhm.
um, let's say that I have two routines now. One for the school days and one for the end of the weekend. Usually in the school days, I wake up at 8 o'clock. I get ready to go to school. My school When I go to school, um, there's a long day of school. It's always boring, and I take notes. After I come back from school, it would be about 2:45. I take a break and wait for my father to come to eat lunch, and have some family time with all my family members. After that, it would be about 6 o'clock. I would start studying and join any online classes if I have. And after studying, it would be about 9. I take a 1 hour break and sleep at 10 o'clock. In the weekends, I wake up late. I wake up at 10 o'clock. I eat breakfast with my family, and start studying till it's lunchtime. And after lunchtime, I could go to a mall, or hang out with my friends and family in different places.
Mhm. All right, thank you so much. That was 1.5 minutes, kind of like that. It's enough. It's better if you speak more than 1.5 minutes, but 1.5 minutes is also good. It's all right. All right, Shreya, I think you're next.
Yeah. So, I'm not an early bird. However, due to my tight schedule, I wake up at 7. I brush my teeth, I bathe, and dress up accordingly. I love to start my day with a good cup of tea. Um, After that, I read motivation quotes to stay motivated the whole day. Then I complete my tasks for the day. I start with my online classes. I complete. They are a bit long, so it takes around 2 to 3 hours to complete. After that, during my lunch, I make up my own lunch, and I cook my own lunch. I take them with myself during the day, and I eat it with my friends. Afterwards, I've recently picked up this schedule because as I said, due to my tight schedule, I have to get up early and complete all my tasks. So, and to stay productive, it is very important for me to like jot down all the points at the night before the day. So I keep a note of all the activities that I'm supposed to complete. I used to be a night owl because I love to read books because it's a quieter time, and everybody uh, the whole world sleeps, and you can be more productive during that period of time. But that makes me kind of demotivated because as I have to get up early, I am not able to complete all my tasks completely with full dedication and full um, energy. So I have stopped that schedule. I've opted a new one. Also because morning is my favorite routine, and which makes me feel energetic. I wanted to stay energetic the whole day, and self affirmation is the favorite activity of my day. I love to remind myself that I am important, and I am creating some values for myself and for the world, and I am playing a good part in the society.
Thank you. I'm gonna.
All these,
I'm so sorry.
yeah,
That was kind of
no,
a lot more than 2 minutes, but that was going really, really well. You've used a lot of tenses, different grammatical structures. That was really good. I'm sorry that I have to stop you.
no issues, no issues.
Is there anything that you want to add, that you want to kind of like make me check? You want me to check?
No, it's just like that only. Like after self-formation, I was just about to close it. Yeah,
All
end
right.
it.
Thank you so much. Then I'm sorry again.
Yeah.
Yes.
No issues.
Muqaddas, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Go ahead. Let me start your
Okay.
time.
So as I am a teacher, so first of all, I start my day by hugging my mother, and so she wished me best of luck, and I go to school, and I've been into this routine for previous 4 years, and I do teach students and with my full heart, and this is one of my favorite activity in the whole day. Uh, After that, after teaching my students, I come home and have lunch. After having lunch, I sleep 2 hours just to unwind myself. And um, after waking up in the evening, I just have some cravings. And as I'm also a student, so after having some kind of food, I just start my study for 3 to 4 hours. And as I am preparing for IELTS, so I for 3 months almost. So I just write up and do listening practice, writing practice, and all that. And after doing all of this and having my dinner with my family, at night I just open my cell phone and scroll up on Instagram, as I am a social person. But from previous 3 months, uh, as I told, I am preparing for IELTS, so I just read boring articles for IELTS.
Thank you so much. That was really good. I'm sorry that you find those articles boring. Hope you find things that you more enjoy, because then it's better.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yes, Anna.
I'm on an early bird, so I usually start my day around 30-40 minutes earlier than all my family. Do you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I think someone else just opened their microphone or forgot its on.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
So I'm an early bird, so I usually wake up around 40 minutes earlier than the rest of my family. I had a cup of coffee, and as soon as my daughter wakes up, I have to prepare her for the kindergarten. So after sending her to the kindergarten, I usually go to the park for jogging, and then when I come back, sometimes I have some housework to do, and around 3 times per week I go to a school to learn French. And the day when I don't have my French lessons, I'm working on improving my English. And I've been following the same routine for around 1.5 years since my daughter went to the kindergarten. And my favorite time and activity of the day, actually, when I study something, I like learning new things. And why actually I stuck to this routine? Because it lets me track the way I spend my time. It gives me more free time, because I know when I have to do different kind of stuff. And the same routine gives me opportunity to be more productive during the day. And usually in the evenings, I read books. When my daughter already in the bed, she's sleeping, I have free time to read books.
Thank you so much. That was around 1 minute 20 seconds. So it could be a little bit longer. That's actually what happens. I think no one else is raising their hand, so I'm just gonna comment on your speaking, all of you. while we're answering the questions like one by one, we usually tend to speak less than the required amount. So that's why I was focusing on the thing that's focusing on saying you don't have to answer each question one by one, because when we try to do that, we usually cannot tell a story. We just answer the questions like with one or two sentences, and then we speak less than the required amount. So what we can do instead is to just have an organization, an outline on our minds, and then we can just go from there. We can talk about anything and everything, basically. But of course, it has to be about our typical day. So let's read this example answer that we prepared. So in this example, we say, my daily activities depend on my work schedule, so nothing is fixed. So I can say I have a spontaneous lifestyle. The only routine I never skip is writing in a diary, which gives me time to reflect on my day. I'm an early riser, so I wake up at around 7 o'clock. Then I have a cup of coffee 30 minutes after that before I go to the gym. Having a coffee in the morning is my favorite part of the day. I plan my day, meanwhile I sip my coffee. I stay at home for pretty much for the whole afternoon. I cook something for dinner. In the evenings, I teach English classes. Since I have started this occupation, I have been following this routine, and it has been for months. So, because this is written, not actually spoken, it misses those like ums and wells or different linking words, for example, because it's a written answer. But when we kind of talk it, when we read it in a speaking voice, it actually has this story outline too, right? So, for example, in the first paragraph, we talk about that day, like generally, and then we kind of go into the details. And for example, we talk about a diary, and we use different words. So, for example, we use early riser, and we say occupation instead of job or work. We say occupation, which is not used that much. So the examiner knows that we know this word too. And yeah, I think, and there are also different grammatical structures. So for example, it says having a coffee in the morning instead of just saying I have coffee in the morning. And it also talks about which, so which gives me time to reflect. So it actually tells the examiner that this person knows how to use relative clauses too. So this answer is a really good answer because it shows a lot of different grammatical structures and a lot of different vocabulary. And what do you think about this when you compare it with your answer? I'm going to comment on your speaking as well at the end of this class. But do you have any comments, or do you want to ask anything about this example answer, or ask anything about your answer? I've taken notes of everything while we're speaking, so I can answer in detail. If there are any questions, you can ask me right away. You can also use the chat box too. If not, all right, so as general comments, you were all doing really, really fine. I think a lot of you, if I were to say like a really generally, you would get a 7, 6.5 or 7.5. There are differences like that. So Angela says her answer was not so structured. You still get really good points, but yes, it kind of lacked that structure. You kind of tended to repeat your answer, but it was still again a good response because I could understand the things that you were saying. There was just a lot of repetition, and it was, I think you were the one that exceeded the time limit. I'm not so sure, I didn't write that down, but still you had a detailed answer as well. So a lot of you talked about having an online thing to do. For example, some of you had to join different classes because you had to study IELTS, or some of you said they had other things to do, so they had to spend time with their family or look after their children, or Yeah, so Mukata, yes, yours was also really detailed as well. I remember you saying that you were a teacher and you had this other different responsibilities. You had to spend time with your family, and your, for example, mother hugs you every morning before you go to work. Those were kind of really good details that reflect on your typical day. That was really, really good. So I would say you would get around uh, a band of 7, let's say. Uh, that's what I took note of. Yeah, that was really, really good. And to achieve more than those things that I've mentioned, so those points, so 7, 7.5 or 6, 6.5, what you need to do, what lacked in all of your answers was kind of different vocabulary. So, for example, you tended to repeat the same words all over again. So, you said, for example, I've been following this routine, or you say, my typical day is. What you can do instead is you can paraphrase those questions, and you can paraphrase everything that you say. So, for example, if you say, my typical day is, then you shouldn't repeat that. You can say, usually I something something. You can say, I go to the gym, and you can then say, let's say, generally I do this, regularly I do that, for example. So if you paraphrase and use synonyms, your grades will be higher, because then the examiner will know that you know all these different vocabulary, right? So what one thing that was missing in all of your answers was this, and other than that, it was the grammatical structures. By the way, I'm seeing your messages in the chat box. I will answer them in a second. um, so what was I going to say? Yeah, grammatical structures. So some of you used different grammatical structures. For example, relative clauses. I remember hearing some relative clauses in some of your answers, which was really good. But other than that, I think most of you used really simple structures. For example, most of you said, I do this, I do that, after that I do this, and that was kind of, again, on a repeat. So what you could do is you could use different grammatical structures. If you're not really comfortable with that yet, I would suggest you try to write a few sentences using those different structures. So, for example, you can use the if clauses, relative clauses, different linking words, such as so, but, because, since, and all that. And you can try to kind of uh, form a few sentences that you can use as an answer to every question, most of the questions. Then you can try to look at them first, try to use them while reading them. And when you try that repeatedly, when you practice that, it will kind of stick to your speaking. So you will use them without even noticing it. All right, so I will look at the chat box now and answer each question. Then I will give permission to speak to you, Shreya. I think it was me who succeeded the timer. Yeah, it can be you. I didn't take note of that. But Shreya, your answer was, again, really, really good too. I gave it a 7.5 here. And since you raised your hand already and I'm talking about you, you can speak. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's just I try to structure my answers as much as I can, because like I ended up with the words like when I said that that made me demotivated in the morning, and then I start with the word that I love the morning time and that. So did it sound like it was structured, or it was just me that thought of it?
No, yours was structured. I remember that too. I don't know if it was you, but someone also talked about their weekends and weekdays separately. That was also a good structure too. Yours was good too, like morning, evening, afternoon, whatever. So you were not the one that, but yeah. So I gave you a 7.5 because of the reasons that I've just mentioned, like vocabulary and different grammatical structures. But I think it was also you who used the relative clause too, like which something something. I'm not so sure, but your structure was good. Any other questions? All right, then I'm continuing with the chat
No, thank
box.
you.
All right, so I answered yours. Thank you for your feedback. No worries. What about me, Anna? Let's check. Where are you? All right, here. So I gave you a 7.5 too. I think yours was structured too, otherwise you wouldn't get a 7.5. And yeah, I think you were also the one that kind of missed those different vocabularies and grammatical structures. That's actually why most of you got these scores. Some of you were less structured than others. That's why they got like different scores. But if you get like a 7, 7.5, then the problem with yours was the vocabulary and grammatical structures. So yes, you can know your score, Miriam. You get a 7.5 too. Actually, you got 7, 7.5, and 7.5. You answered me 3 times. So your score overall is really consistent. You get 7, 7.5 in each answer that you get. And the others that I've mentioned, they also have these consistent scores too. So if I told you like you get 7.5, you get 7.5, 7 in each question. That was really good. And what about mine? Angeli. So yeah, your score actually changed a lot. So you started off with a 7 for your first answer and 6.5 for second, 7 for another, and 6 for the last one. What happened was, I think that you, I don't know if you get tired or anything like that, but you started making more mistakes as you kept on speaking, and you started making those really how can I say this, like simple mistakes, let's say. So I remember saying something like, I don't know what your exact mistake was, but something like he are, for example. So you didn't say he are exactly, but it was something like that, like a singular plural mistake, and you did them repeatedly. So that kind of affects our score a lot, because then the examiner cannot know if we know how to say, how to use singular and plural versions correctly. So I couldn't decide exactly what to grade you, but I would say overall you would get like a 6.5, because I kind of like had a general idea, actually. So yeah, Angeli, yours was that. So you had some grammatical mistakes that really affected your score, and you kind of tended to repeat the question and the answers a lot. That's also affected your score. Yeah, I think that was it. What was mine in other 2 tasks? Yeah, yours was the same, Shreya. So 7, 7.5, 7.5. You're giving score 4 before task 2. What do you mean, Fatima? I couldn't understand. Score 4 before task? Oh, so you mean before this 2? This question, this discussion question? I kind of gave a score for your each answer, and then I kind of added them up together and divided them, and that got you your score. But yeah, you have separate scores for each answer, and yeah, then I added them up and divided them, and that was your score, like ultimate score. Any other questions? All right, that was too long. I spoke too much. I'm sorry. Hope that those feedbacks help you. That was asked of me in the last courses, so I tried to give as detailed feedbacks as I could. But let's move on to idioms and collocations now. So our first idiom is to get up, get dressed, and get ready. These are 3 different idioms. To get up basically means to wake up and get out of the bed. Get dressed means we dress ourselves. And get ready, let's say, for the school or work or whatever. So we can then have breakfast, have dinner, have a shower, have a meeting. So these are different meanings, again, that we have with have. Then we can say it's a creature of habit, which means someone who always does the same thing in the same way. So for example, we can say, my father's such a creature of habit. He always has to have a biscuit and a cup of tea at bedtime. So creature of habit basically means someone that does not change their habits. So does everything in the same way. I'm a creature of habit, actually. For example, if I sit on the right side of a sofa, let's say, I always tend to sit on the right side. And if I accidentally sit on the left side, then I kind of feel really anxious and I don't know what I'm doing at that point. So I'm a really creature of habit, let's say. You can take notes of these too, by the way. They really help with your score because they're different ways of saying things. So, for example, on a regular day, I wouldn't think of using a creature of habit while I'm describing myself. But if we try to use them, take notes of them and try to use them in our speaking, then it actually really helps our score because we know all these different idioms, collocations, and vocabularies. And the fourth one is to get things done. So when we get things done, we do things. Basically, it means that. We can also say look forward to something. It's really important, this is really important, to use the ing word form of the words here. So you can say, I'm looking forward to seeing you, instead of I look forward to see you, because that would be wrong. Usually, to gets a verb one after it, but this one gets a verb ing. So we need to use I'm looking forward to seeing you, instead of I'm looking forward to see you. All right, and we can say biological clock, which basically means, for example, if I have a biological clock, I can wake up at the same time, around the same time every day without an alarm clock. So then I have a biological clock. Sorry. So what I advise you to do is to take notes of these, and you should try to use them while you're speaking on a daily basis. So for example, while I was practicing for my speaking, I always try to think in English. So for example, when I'm planning out my day, I usually tended to think about that day, plan that day in English, which helped me with my speaking a lot because I got used to thinking in English, which was really good because while we're speaking, we cannot always have that translation on our mind because translating takes time too, right? So thinking in English is really, really helpful. So try to use these idioms and collocations and these new vocabulary that you learn on a daily basis, basically. There's a question on the chat box. What was the thing you said about using which? Can we not use it? No, you can use it. Actually, it's really, really good that you use it because which is a relative clause or a noun clause, and it shows the examiner that you know how to use which. I think one of you or two of you used which in their answer as a relative clause, and that was really good. It affected their score in a positive way. All right. Any other questions about the class or these idioms? Anything in general, their score? If not, so before I go to what's next, oops, sorry, I spilled my water. I sent you a link on the chat box. So that is a survey, and there you need to, if you want to, you can grade me. You can give feedback on the class. If you have any questions or anything, you can ask that too. So my name is Gizem. My name is Gizem because the survey will ask you my name. My name is Gizem. I can also write it on the chat box. Gizem. Yes, and it's your feedback is really, really helpful. We check them all the time, and we kind of add things or remove things from this class depending on your feedback. It really helps us. So, and it's also anonymous, so don't worry about saying what you want to say. You can be really honest. That would be really, really good for us. All right, I will try to, yes. Yeah, so after that, what you need to do to be better at speaking, because you're actually all good, you need to practice. As I've said, you can practice using these different vocabulary and idioms, and you can also join our other live lessons. We have writing class tomorrow and other reading and listening and introduction to IELTS classes on the weekdays. You can join any of them. You can check the timeline to know when and what, yeah, when those classes are. And you can also check our library for offline videos, and they have other tips and strategies and information on different parts of the test. You can check them too. And yeah, that is actually all. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining this class. I really, really enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it too. And yeah, you were all really, really good. Thank you so much. If there are no questions, I hope to see you tomorrow. And yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. It's a nice session.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it a lot too, Shreya. Thank you. Hope to see you tomorrow, next week. Bye.